And then your parents also from London?
Well, my mum and my dad, they moved over. My mum was 19 when she moved over to study. But therefore, originally we're from Nigeria.
Okay.
And I was born here. I was born in England, mainly because my parents wanted me to have the British passport,
Okay.
so that life wouldn't be difficult for us as we grew up. Because what we've kind of experienced like now is that a lot of kids who didn't get their British passport are kind of like going through some legal issues and some struggles.
Right.
So they flew over to have us here in the UK, and then would fly back to Nigeria. So I was there for, I think, like 3 to 6 months. But my brother and sister, they were there till like they were 5,
Okay.
4 and 5. But I was there till I was like 3 or 4 months, between 3 and 6 months, and then we moved back to England. So when people ask me where I'm from, I always say, yeah, I was born in England, but I'm actually Nigerian. But when you have that kind of like background, you're kind of stuck in the middle.
Right.
You have this kind of identity crisis.
Right.
You don't know who you belong to, because that side says, no, you're not really 100% us. And the other side says, no, you're kind of more them.
Right.
So you're stuck in the middle. So I always just say, like, when someone asks me where I'm from or my heritage, I say, well, I'm a Londoner. Like, I'm just from London.
Okay.
You know, and nothing else. Not English, not British, not Nigerian, just a Londoner.
Okay. And you mentioned a brother and sister. How many siblings do you have?
I got one brother and one sister.
Okay.
They're both. My sister played netball. She was an athlete. My brother was probably the more successful athlete of us all. He played professional rugby, and we also played rugby for England at the under 18s and under 21s. Level, until he broke, like the freak accident, he broke both his thumbs. Wow! So he couldn't play anymore. But yeah, they were both. My mum was an athlete too. She used to run and stuff like that. So.
Okay. And so you grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up in London during that time?
I guess the fashionable thing to say is like, I struggled, you struggle with this. I didn't. Like, we didn't have much. We weren't, we were working class family. My mum was by herself. So she worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs. So it was literally just my brother, my sister, and myself. Like, just we raised ourselves.
Right.
Like, obviously, I'm not taking it. My mum was there.
Right. Your mom was always at work, so.
But yeah, right. We only had us. My cousins were there. They lived with us. One of my cousins lived with us, and another female cousin lived with us. But my brother, my 2 other siblings, it was pretty much us. And I only really have good memories of my childhood in terms of friends and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, we would go out like everywhere else in the world, right? You'd go out at 12. You'd come back at 8 or 9 in the evening,
right?
And the only time you might come back is to get like some refreshments or something like that. But we were out all day, playing sports at the sports clubs, or at the youth centres, or jumping, causing mischiefs in the neighbourhood and stuff like that, riding your bikes around and playing video games. I can't sit here and tell you that I had a tough childhood in terms of friends. They were tough moments, like being raised in a church was tough because of the discipline, and the discipline at home was tough. But as much as I kind of criticized the way that we were raised up in terms of our discipline, you understood it because my mother was by herself and she was raising 3 kids in the inner city of London. So if you don't implement any type of discipline onto your kids, anything can happen.
Right.
They can go in any different direction.
Right.
So we may not have understood it then, but we understand it now as parents, why my mother made the decisions that she made, and and why she disciplined us the way that she did. The only thing I don't understand is why the church that I went to, they disciplined us the same way my mother would. Right. Like, even worse, like the way they beat us, and the way they, we had to kneel down or stand on one leg, balance, holding a chair over our heads, that kind of thing. And amongst other things that went on in there, it wasn't like anything crazy, like too crazy, but the discipline was a bit much. So we had to find a way to kind of ease that off, and that's when you go more into the sports direction, because you're tired of that discipline. Right.
So that's pretty much what led you into sports.
I'd say so, because I already had a lot of friends around the neighborhood. and they all played sports, and they all seemed to walk away from there and have, with smiles on their faces. So I was like, okay, I need that as well. Like, playing my brother and sister is cool. Playing with the kids in the streets is cool. But I wanted that kind of team atmosphere, that team sport, and that was my release, I guess.